Hey everybody, it's Triple L, and now let's talk Made in Abyss episode 9. And well, with this episode, it's gonna be a bit special. There's gonna be a bit of a special angle here because this episode, and I'm not sure if it happened in previous episodes because it's only recently that I read a little bit of the manga, but this episode had a little special feature of having about 10 to 12 minutes of anime original content. So it's going to be a pretty interesting little one to talk about because now we get to ask the question, was the anime original content worthwhile? But yeah, guys, hey, welcome to the video. Let's talk about Made in Abyss episode 9. It's a pretty fun one this week, even if it is only anime original content. Okay, no, I'll keep that bit for the end. But with this episode, where do we start? Where do we end off? We start entering the 3rd layer and we end off at the 4th layer. In between the 2 points, we just get to see a lot of exposition on the 3rd layer. Now, you know, Made in Abyss is an adventure type show. I really enjoy the adventure. I like seeing the different locales. I like, even if it is just going down a wall and scaling it and seeing the fauna that's around. You know, it's just a fun time. I really do get a smile on my face as I'm seeing all the scenery. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. Like Made in Abyss, it continues the general quality. Its art is pretty. The monsters are cool. The scenery I enjoy. I think my favorite part is probably when the kids reach the boat, just because that was so interesting how the boat's just embedded into the shaft. Really interesting stuff. I really enjoyed it just for seeing the locale that is the 3rd layer. But now let's talk the events that transpired in the episode and the significance of the events that transpired in the episode. So first off, like premising, the thing is, from the 7-minute mark to about the 19-minute mark, roughly 10 to 12 minutes, like I said at the beginning, that was anime original content. That is content that did not appear in the original manga material. Now, when you have that kind of situation arising, and when you keep in context that Made in Abyss is a limited episode run, specifically from the information that I have from Anime Chart and whatever, it says that we only have 13 episodes of Made in Abyss for this season. So from what that tells me is that we don't have the full confirmation of, let's say, 26 episodes. We have for sure 13 episodes. So when you have the context that we have a limited run, and then you have this episode, and you see that that the majority of the episode is content that wasn't featured in the manga, you have to start asking yourself, like, where are we gonna end off by episode 13? Even if episode 13 ends up being like a mid-season finale, where exactly do they want to end off with? Because with this, we have episode 10, 11, 12, and 13. That's about 4 episodes. That's like 1 hour and 20 minutes of material. What do they want to do with that? And where exactly do these guys see themselves ending off? Those are the type of questions that we have to start asking. And those are the type of questions that you generally start asking every time that you get really close to the end of a run for a particular anime. But again, their choice to put filler in and put in so much minutes of filler in this episode is really interesting, and it kind of makes sense when you consider what actually happened in the manga and also how quickly the 3rd layer was resolved in the manga. So again, just to give you guys, if you're just an anime only viewer, just to give you the quick reference here, the anime original content starts at right where Riko is stumbling upon the how's it called? Madoka Jack. There we go. Right when Riko finds that monster, that's the start of the anime original content. Everything that happens after that and until the 2nd appearance of the Crimson Slackjaw, that is all original content. So there are some things that are popping up in that particular sequence that you can kind of argue, well, that's kind of what the anime wanted to show off, because the person who got the spotlight for that anime original content sequence was Riko. So you could kind of tell exactly what was going on in the minds of the guys that wrote up the scenario for this episode. But it does sacrifice a few things, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And also, it does sacrifice a few things in terms of the context of, hey, we have limited episodes and the opening is promising a lot of material that's going to be covered. So it's just an interesting thing. So one of the things that definitely got sacrificed in this episode was Reg and what he had ultimately done in this episode compared to what he did in the manga. So what initially happened in the manga was that we went from the boat and we immediately went into the second conflict with the Crimson Slackjaw. So when we see the Crimson Slackjaw showing up for the second time, what ends up happening there it actually goes back to full-on manga content when Reg knocks off the Crimson Slackjaw, because even the method by which Reg destroyed this Crimson Slackjaw in this episode is original to this episode. So in the original manga, what ended up happening was that Reg just went into melee and destroyed the Crimson Slackjaw by punching it away, and it knocked into the abyss, and other monsters went to prey on it. That was really important in the manga because when we got the flashback sequence with Ozen, Reg thought about what she had said, that if he leaves Riko alone in the abyss, most likely something's gonna kill Riko. So in the manga, his thought process was he doesn't want that situation to happen. So he pretty much pushed himself to try and get a new solution, and that ended up in him meleeing away the Crimson Slackjaw. So for the manga, it showed a bit more growth from Reg, and it showed that he had taken Ozen's word a little bit more seriously, and it showed that he was more competent, that he was more capable without his incinerator. In the anime, as we saw, he instead fires off the incinerator at a much smaller enemy, and then when the Crimson Slackjaw shows up, it goes into the exact situation that Ozen warned him about, that he might be putting Riko in danger. So what Reg ultimately ends up doing in the anime in comparison to his manga counterpart is that he takes the risk, and then he does end up putting Riko in a really nasty situation. So when it comes to the execution of Reg's character and ability, I think the manga did it way better, especially when you consider the implications. The kid just had a flashback specifically telling him to be careful when he does that, and then he continues to do that. Heck, his actions with the incinerator are actually what called the Crimson Slackjaw to come for them faster, although you could argue the Crimson Slackjaw probably was keeping tabs on them from the very beginning, or from the moment that Reg heard it. So, it's a really interesting thing. And then with Reg using the pickaxe instead of going in for melee, again, I think that does a disservice to Reg, because in the manga it is a bit more incredible when you see Reg going and fighting it, pushing it out, and then using his arms in general just to knock it away. It's a bit more impressive for Reg. In the anime, it's a bit more impressive for the pickaxe, because the pickaxe is freaking cool. When you see the explosions and then it keeps exploding on the Crimson Slackjaw. Is it called the Crimson Slackjaw? Whatever, the Crimson Monster, you guys get it. When he uses it on the Crimson Monster in the anime, again, it looks really cool, but it does a disservice to Reg. But I don't think we get to use the pickaxe that often in the manga. I don't recall seeing it too often. So seeing it a little bit early, I think they are trying to maximize the cool weapon that they have, and they want to use it. Actually, speaking of cool weapons, I kind of do wish that, in general, the story focused, or just like, it'd be nice if in the story Riko also was excavating relics. I just think the relics are really cool, and it's unfortunate that since we're in a race to get to the bottom of the abyss, we can't have Riko excavating relics. But yeah, it's just like she mentioned that she wanted to like pull out some relics from the boat, and it's like, I wish you could, Riko. I wish you could. You'd probably find some cool stuff. Anyway, so that's the first thing with the anime original content and Reg. It's interesting what they chose to do, and they ultimately, I think, they take away from Reg. But now, like, we have to ask, like, what is it that the anime original content tried to do? And well, that's pretty obvious to see it when you look at the character that it was focused on, Riko. So with Riko's segment, we see her trying to survive for 2 hours without Reg. We see her like fall into a trap, but we see her also pull out of that trap really well. And then we see her having to run away from what were previously peaceful monsters, and we see her having a bit of altitude sickness, the abyss curse affecting her, and her having the delusions. There's a lot going on in Riko's thing. Everything up before the delusions, you can see what they want to do. They want to establish that Riko is capable, that she can handle things to some degree. It's sort of valuable. I mean, it's establishing that the little girl is capable of things, but because this is anime original content, and because we know, because as if you're a manga reader, you have a good idea what's about to happen next. and because we know the general dangers of the Abyss, there might be a problem if, you know, if the author himself continues to put Riko in bad situations. Then this one moment that establishes that Riko is actually capable is going to be largely, I don't know, it's going to be kind of wasted when you have a situation popping up later on where Riko is that useless. That said, I think I'm being a bit too harsh here. It's not that big of a deal. It's just, I think that scene does kind of promise too much out of a character that isn't going to get those many great moments. I mean, like, it's really Reg. Reg is a little monster, and we see it when he punches that thing out. Like, he's the one that's carrying the show. It's not Riko. Or sorry, they both carry the show. It's not Riko that's ensuring the survivability for both of them. It's Reg. Reg's putting in a lot more work when it comes to the survivability. The next portion of that anime original content was the hallucinations and Riko going back up to the town. And the whole point of that was really just, you know, seeing, I guess, Riko's mother for a little bit, and also just putting in the spotlight exactly how much Riko cares about Reg. And it is really heartwarming, although because it's anime original content, I do have to ask the question, like, how long is too long for that whole little sequence? Because at the end of the day, it's just showing off an effect of the Abyss, and it's just showing that Riko cares about Reg to a pretty high degree. I did think it was a little bit ridiculous when Riko was in the hallucination saying that she and Reg have always been together. That's factually incorrect. That might just be me being cynical. I was just, at that point, I was just poking fun at the girl, but she's having a hallucination. She can say whatever she wants. That said, the hallucination is valuable only for establishing Riko's feelings for Reg that we should have already been aware of, and I you know, it's just reiterating points. So when it came to the hallucination, I thought it was cool to see the effect. I think it went on too long, however, and because now we're at a possibly, we have little time left with the anime run, them wasting time like this, well, I shouldn't say wasting time, but it does feel a little bit like a waste of time in my perspective. But that might just be, again, because I think I'm judging this anime original content pretty harshly. But now let's talk about why this might have happened in the first place. And it might just really be because in the original chapter, the whole thing with the third layer was covered by like the halfway point in the chapter. Like pretty much from the moment that Reg gets to the boat, and again from the right after he takes out the Slackjaw, it's back to just pure following the manga. So it was really funny because we started in the third layer and we ended off getting to the fourth layer, while in the manga we just like very quickly skimmed over the third layer. There was nothing really interesting about it, and then we just ended up in the fourth layer. So what I ultimately think happened is that the anime just wanted to spend more time focusing on the layer that they were in, and they didn't want to have to adapt entering two layers in the same episode. From a logistical point of view, it makes sense. It's just very interesting that they chose to do this now, and it's just very interesting to see what they decided to supplement this episode with. They chose to bring Riko to the forefront. They chose to say like, hey, Riko is competent. And they chose to show a little bit of hallucination, showing, hey, this is how much Riko cares about Reg. Again, Riko showing that she's competent. Really appreciated the hallucination. I think it went too long. But anyway, overall, it's still a really fun episode. I still enjoy Made in Abyss. I don't think this takes away from anyone that's watching it without referencing the original manga at all. It's just a really interesting thing. I really enjoy it when I get to talk about more technical aspects and the decision-making process that might have gone into an episode over just talking about the things that are transpiring in an episode. So I really enjoyed this episode just because it has a lot of talking value to it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below. Let me know if you have anything to say. And yeah, thanks for watching. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.